Hi, I'm Pat Morris, your host for the PM Talk Show. Our telecast is made possible by these fine underwriters, and we thank them very much.
Locally owned and operated by Drs. Wheaton Boobridge, the Animal Care Center in Hammond and Pet Care Center in Ponchatoula have 6 vets on staff with nearly a century of combined experience. Celebrating our 30th birthday in May, the Animal Care Center has offered a full line of veterinary services, which includes medicine, surgery, grooming, boarding, and 7 days a week emergency services. Our mission is to provide the highest quality of veterinary care in a professional, compassionate manner. The Animal Care Center and Pet Care Center, a commitment to excellence with love and care for your pet.
Hello again, this is Pat Marsh, your host for the PM Talk Show. Again, we're out on beautiful Miller Lake, and we are doing a series of interviews with different people who worked or work directly with children, because we're finding that a lot of times when children have problems, or if the counselors say that they need to get referred to different agencies, a lot of times we're finding that the parents really don't know what to do and how to go about doing it. So we decided to do a segment on that to let you know as a parent what you need to do and how to go about doing it. And we have as our first guest Mrs. Osa Betts-Williams, who is retired from the Tangipahoa Parish School System, and while employed in the system, she worked with child welfare and attendance. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good,
I brought you on because, of course, you are my liaison person who takes care of problems that people have with their kids in the system, because that's your area and you did it for a number of years. So I'm comfortable with that because you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
So we want to thank you for coming, and we're going to open up the camera to give you an opportunity to talk about those things and what has to be done and whatever else you want to talk about during the first half.
Sounds great to me. One of the things that I wanted to talk about this morning, Pat, is Hammond Junior High School. And, you know, I've heard why is everything about Hammond Junior High School right now. And, of course, I also serve on a stakeholders committee for the Hammond schools. And it appears that the least of the needs are at Hammond Junior High. Well, the greatest needs are at Hammond Junior High, and it appears that some of those needs aren't being met. So as a part of that advocacy group, the stakeholders group, we're working toward the advancement of some of those needs. Also working as on the education committee with the NAACP, I'm working as a child advocate. So with my past experiences, and of course it's a little bit broader than child welfare and attendance, because I've worked with substance abuse, violence abuse, and alcohol abuse prevention. I've worked as a juvenile probation and parole officer, and I've worked as a crisis intervention worker with Child Protective Services. So most of my career has been centered around helping children to progress and get on track. So with that in mind, you know, I've spent time going to whatever schools needed with parents as an advocate to make sure that those parents are getting what their child needs. One of the issues, though, that I've come across in the process of doing this is that parents just aren't aware of their rights. Right. Children are suspended from school sometimes or expelled from school. Parents don't know that there's an appeals process. One of the most important things before we even get to that point is that the parent needs to know that it's necessary for them to have a paper trail. Right. They need to document what happens with their child, because when things come up and it gets to the point where the child is about to be put out of school, then there's no documentation on the part of the parent. The parent doesn't know what to do or how to do it, so they contact us for help in many cases. And we try to help them walk through the process, because my mission, and I think the mission of the school system, is to make sure a child gets quality education and services. And with those services also come services to children with not only disabilities, but sometimes just behaviors, challenges. And many times when a child has a behavior challenge, they tend to act out, and the first thing that happens is that they're sent for a minor referral and then a major referral, and next thing you know, they're out of school. So we're trying to keep as many children in school getting their education as possible. With that in mind, again, we talk about how, it is primarily my responsibility to go in and work with those families and say, look, we need to make sure that this child, if it's a child on medication or some with a behavior problem, have they been assessed by your SBLC committee, and that's the school building level committee who handles the referrals when children seems to have a challenge that won't allow them to sit in the classroom and learn or behave as they should. Now, we know that we're not talking about little adults. We're talking about children. Right. And with children, they have to have the ability to grow physically, emotionally, mentally, and they have to mature in general. They're not going to be able to do the things that we as adults do, such as paying attention all the time, sitting in their area all the time, not being impulsive. These are things that children just naturally do. So this is one of my concerns, is that we work with the schools and with the parents to achieve what's best for the child. Because, we look at the crime rates, we look at the imprisonment rates, we look at the rates at the juvenile detention centers, and it costs approximately, I think about 3, maybe 3.5% more to incarcerate a child than to educate a child.
Right, it does.
And with that in mind, it's less of a burden on the state budget to educate that child. So with that extra 2.5%, 3% that it's costing to incarcerate, why not funnel that money into services in the school system to educate and keep them in school and address the issues that they have?
Right. Let me get you to go back and clarify something. When a parent is told that their child, I'll just say, in trouble at school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What is the first thing that the parent need to do if the child comes home with a note, or if the parent gets a phone call and says that your child is being expelled for 3 days, or they can't come back for the rest of the year? What is the first thing the system, and that's the first knowledge of a parent, finding out that these things are going on. Mm-hmm. Once they find out, what is the first thing that they need to do?
Well, let's back up a second. The first thing that needs to be done is that the school needs to make sure that the parent is contacted rather than just send a referral home with the child, because that parent may never get that referral. And I know that in many situations, it's said by the school administration or whomever that, that child should be responsible enough to bring that information home to the parent. Well, thinking with a child's mind, if I'm in trouble, the last thing I want, to do is let my parent know that I'm in trouble. So the first thing is that parent should be contacted directly to let them know that this child is being suspended or this child is having problems. But even beyond that, the parent should be in a mindset where this is my child and I need to go to school and find out what they're doing. That's the responsibility of that parent. If my child is an A student, that's fine. let's go to school and give that child the accolades that they, you know, rightfully deserve by being an A student. If it's the opposite, where the child is having some problems, the parent needs to be a regular face at that school to say, I'm here to help my child and to support what you need me to support. But even beyond that, that parents should have running documentation as to what is happening with their child. If they have running documentation, I mean, the school is going to keep documentation. I can tell you that. But if that parent also have running documentation to say, well, on this date I was contacted and this is what I was told, or on this date I received a referral and this is what I was told. I spoke with the administrator and we cleared the matter and this is what happened. So that parent needs to have running documentation for their child.
Well, let me just play the devil's advocate. I'm a parent. I send my kids to school. I don't see them anymore until that evening.
Right.
I don't get any information on my child's behavior until maybe 6 months after the incident has started. I was never notified. Now keep in mind, I'm a parent that didn't come to see about the child.
Right.
Is that solely my responsibility, and are there any consequences for that happening, me as a parent and the system as a system?
No. No, it's not your sole responsibility. The school has, they have advocated partnerships with the parent. So when you look at the school-parent partnership, you're also looking at the fact that the school has a responsibility to the child and the parent has a responsibility also. So if something happens today and you're not notified until 6 months down the road when the child is almost out of school, then I think that there should be questions raised as to why you did not tell me that my child was having problems. Why did you not tell me that I needed to be at school? Because see, sometimes we're looking at parents who have maybe half dozen children. Maybe 5 of those children are in school. So they may not have transportation. They may not have all of the things that they need to get to school and attend to that particular child. And so if the school is, in fact, you know, processing with the parent, you know, the problems that the child is having, then there shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, well, this is certainly interesting, and we're going for a break, and we'll be back with part 2.
Shelters are the best places to find a new pet.
What a perfectly beautiful little lady.
That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals.
You little rascal.
Eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet.
Oh, ladies first.
Be that person. Adopt.
This is living.
Hey, kid. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back to the PM Talk Show. This is Pat Marsh, your host, and we are yet delving into the processes that's necessary when your children have problems, what you as a parent need to do to get to the bottom of it. Before the break, we were talking about what would happen if a parent didn't know anything for 6 months. If they drop the kids off, they don't see them until that afternoon. The school sends a note home, the parent don't get the note. What is sent to the parents at the beginning of the school year to talk about all of these things that we're addressing now?
Okay, at the beginning of the school year, each child gets a school handbook, and it's a handbook that's used as a parent's guide to know what programs are available in the school, what policies are available for, you know, the child's behavior or the positive things that are available. So there are many things in the handbook that's beneficial to the parent and the child. And believe it or not, if you have 5 children in school, you're going to get 5 handbooks, because each teacher is responsible for handing each child a handbook in their class. So you have situations also where parents are not well educated. So, I mean, how can you know what's in the handbook if you aren't able to read what's in the handbook? And some people, you know, I guess we have to look at the fact that we have families who just don't think beyond what their immediate need is, because their needs are so great. They just don't have the latitude to be able to think past the immediate need. So if there's a handbook there, sure, you can say, well, we sent a handbook home, you know, this is in the handbook, you should have read the handbook. But if I can't read, how am I going to know what's in the handbook? So we need to, I think one of the things that's very important is for the school to do some outreach, you know, and I know that a lot of that is not happening, you know, with students who get in trouble in school. We have parents, again, who are not well educated, and there needs to be outreach to those parents. And I understand that we're talking about an enormous task when it comes to what the school can and cannot do. You know, I'm constantly hearing that we don't have money to provide XYZ services. The schools are not being funded and served with certain equipment because we don't have the money to do it. But I think when you get down to the human aspect, you know, the schools, I believe that the schools should be more proactive in dealing with problems that are at hand. Statistically, it's my understanding that maybe 10 to maybe up to 15% or less are students with problems. The remainder of those students are there, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and there are no problems. But, you know, we look at that other small percentage, and it appears that they cause all of the behavior issues to explode, and it creates a negative vision of the school, a view of the school and what that school and that administrator is doing. For example, I haven't heard one complaint from Hammond Junior High this year. Right. And I tend to, and you know, people want to know why I focus on Hammond Junior High. It was once Greenville Park Elementary and High School. That's where I went to school. So I have a vested interest in that school, and I tend to make it, make an effort to talk a lot about what's going on in that one of the 2 community schools that we have left in the parish. So, you know, I think that that's, you know, a feather in the cap of Mr. Perry as a principal, that we've not had to go to his school and work with the parent, because most of the parents are pretty well informed.
They're informed, and if there are any problems, we don't know about it because they're handled in-house. Yes. And the kids are always helped, and they continue to thrive in that educational setting and in getting prepared for the future. Now, a couple of things I know. I met with Miss Sonia Smith, who is the FINS coordinator for our FINS Families in Need of Services. And one of the things, and this is what I want to drive home before we go to our next point, is whenever you have a problem, and you correct me if I'm wrong, before it gets to FINS, before there's a step 6 hearing, which is expulsion recommendation, that a form now has to be filled out and turned in, listing to FINS or whoever, listing what have you done to address the needs of the child. This is something that the school system has to do, is that correct? As
far as I understand, it is, and the school system is also responsible to make a child available to FINS services by working with Ms. Smith and her staff. I know that we no longer have a full fence program in the Hammond area or the Hammond City Court that we once had, but with the two programs together, they've served the parish well, very well. And you know, that's a resource. That's a resource. You know, when they have the Step 6 hearings, many times it's not until then that FENS is called in to work with the child.
Right.
So, you know.
Is there something that says a parent can ask the question when their child is in trouble, has an SBLC meeting been held, or can they request that one be held?
Most of the time, the request has to come from the parent. There are times that the school, as I understand it, can do an SBLC, which is a school building level again, committee request to have a child assessed for their needs. We have programs, we have 504, we have special needs. You know, there are programs already in place to help these children. It's just a matter of pairing that child with a program that's going to serve their need.
Well, this will lead into my next question for you. I understand that something fabulous is getting ready to happen. You're going to be running for state representative for District 72, I understand.
Yes, yes. We have a year and a half to prepare, and I've been talking about it all over. I'm really excited because as I understand, this is a district that was basically slated for an African American representative. Right. And we have not had that opportunity yet. And it's not that people have not run, but you know, for whatever reasons, they have not been elected. So I hope to be, or let's be a little bit more positive. I will be the first African American citizen of District 72 to be elected to represent the people of District 72.
Great. And in doing so, I'm hoping that when you get to Baton Rouge, a lot of programs that we are missing now, would you advocate, especially for the children, seeing those programs put back into place?
Exactly. Well, since education and family services and children's services have been my career, I mean, I don't know, you know, anything else that's more important in my life. You know, we look at people who are in power now. They had to be educated.
Right.
They had to go to school. They had to have teachers. They had to have administrators.
Right.
And for the life of me, I cannot understand why more focus is not put on education. So one of my first goals is going to be, and of course, you know, I have an MPA, which is a Master's in Public Administration, and the focus is public policy. So I'm well versed in reviewing policy, you know, tweaking policy to fit the needs of our people. So as a public policy person, that's one of the things I expect to do, is to just look at everything that's in place for education, including the children's code, which is very important. And not, I mean, you know, Rome wasn't changed in a day, so I know I can't change everything in a 4-year period, but I guarantee you I'm going to work hard to do as much as I can. And looking into those policies and what they represent and how they are used, you know, because interpretation is the biggest part of doing anything. If something is in writing and you're not interpreting it correctly, then you're missing the whole game.
Right.
So that's one of the major things that I'm going to look at is education, whatever reform that can be done for those who, the things that are already in place, as well as health care.
Okay.
Those are two of my major emphasis right now.
Well, we want to thank you for coming. We're getting towards the end of our show, and whatever you can do to help our kids, because I'm tired of hearing the school to prison pipeline.
Oh,
we can do
yes.
better.
Oh,
I'm really
yes.
tired of hearing that, and we have to do something. Do you have any closing remarks?
Yes, I do. Just be looking out for me. I'll be out there for 2015 election for state representative for District 72. This is not a campaign plug, but I just want you to make sure you're out there looking out for Osa Betts-Williams, candidate for state representative District 72. I'm going to continue to work in all of the programs and committees that I'm working with now. I'm grateful to be a part of the stakeholders committee. I'm grateful to be first vice president of the NAACP and the education committee. I like to give a shout out to my sorority, who's been very supportive, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and all of my sisters out there in other sisters and brothers in other Greek letter organizations. And my church, Pastor Hannibal, hey Greenfield.
Well, certainly we're glad that you are our guest today, and we'll be bringing you back for a continued segment on the policies for children in the school system, child welfare and attendance, because that's important. We are at the end of our program, and we want to thank you again for joining us. This is Pat Marsh, your host. We're out here again on beautiful Miller Lake, and we want you to know again that knowledge is powerful and it does matter. Thank you. Have a great week, and God bless.